go up a gear. Now third. And absolutely sensational. Hello, welcome to Invictus Porsche for a review of our Porsche 911 996. There's a few topics that I want to cover in this video, both about values, the difference between the Gen 1, the Gen 2, and why my preferred 996 is the Tiptronic as opposed to the manual. Point number one, these cost approximately £6,000 to £7,000 a couple of years ago, but over the past few years they've gone up in values, and since having the classic status, a good example will cost you around £20,000 plus. An example such as this with 59,000 miles on the clock will cost £16,995. So £17,000 to just round it up and not complicate things. It's had the IMS upgraded bearing, it's had a lot of essential maintenance work done, it's been bore scope inspected and an over rev report done. Overall, it's priced really well. The fact we're in February and as the summer is around the corner, you would see that the values of these do tend to go up slightly. The second point is about the differences between a Gen 1 and a Gen 2. This is the Gen 2, which originally had the single row IMS bearing. This has the uprated Allen Engineering uprated bearing, which basically, you know, in a way kind of bomb-proofs the idea if your IMS bearing will blow up your engine to dust. It rarely ever happens, but unfortunately it has happened to people, and I think we've just got to be honest with each other and to tell you that it has had an IMS bearing. Should you consider buying one with the single row IMS bearing that were put in these cars between 2000 to 2004, I think absolutely, why not? As long as the bearing is in a good condition, and you know, when you're doing the frequent oil changes, you pay attention to make sure there's no sort of slight metal debris in the oil change or in the filter. Other minor cosmetic differences between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 is obviously the throttle cable, which runs, let's just invite the cameraman, which runs right behind the driver's side, seat. So this is where you'll see the throttle cable, and the fact that the front boot and the rear bonnet would open through these almost cable operated handles, which some people considered to look very ugly. Now these are electrically operated, and obviously you've had you know, a couple of other options of alloys and some other subtle changes from a spec point of view that you could actually do in a Gen 2. And the third point is the Tiptronic. To really find out why I love the Tiptronic, we need to get into that car and drive it. Now is the time to find out what they like to drive. And on the subject of what they like to drive, we're going to be talking about the Tiptronic. First time start, there's no blue smoke, which is an extremely important sign on these 996s or 997, especially with the indirect fuel injected engine, otherwise also known as the variable intake. What is it that I absolutely what is it that I absolutely love about the Tiptronic? Well, firstly, it's a very comfortable gearbox to have in a Porsche 911, because it does everything that you would want in a car. It's quite comfortable to drive with this gearbox in a 911, because you can just, in local traffic like this, just be comfortable, cruise along and have a good time in your car. And you know, you don't feel like, you know, you're rushing from A to B and, you know, hustling your gearbox and, you know, shifting down or going up. You know, some people might want that hustle and bustle of a manual gearbox, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, and not necessarily my cup of tea, only when I'm really in the mood. For this even so when I'm in the mood for this, the Tiptronic also caters for that, because you can just slide it across onto M. I'm in 5th gear, we'll drop to 4th, drop to 3rd. As a matter of fact, we're at 30 miles an hour, we'll drop to 2nd. Go up a gear, now to 3rd. Absolutely sensational. So if you want engagement out of your Tiptronic gearbox, it's here at a press of a button, and by sliding the gear select to the left side into manual. And the third thing that I love about the Tiptronic is the fact it's a much more reliable gearbox than a manual. Number one, you don't have to worry about your gear linkage cables that's going to just break on you, which has happened to us a countless number of times. Even on a car on which I spent 10 grand on an engine rebuild, and then as soon as getting it back from the specialist, guess what, my gear linkage cables goes. Not the specialist's fault, but these things can happen in a manual gearbox. It's not a problem one's got to worry about in an automatic Tiptronic. And also I find that the Tiptronic is a much more robust, reliable gearbox as opposed to the manual, because the manual at some point, especially with a car such as this, which is close to 20 years old, this is on a 2003, it's on a 2003 plate, it's close to 20 years old. You know, at some point one needs to think about overhauling their gearbox, purely because of the fact that the gear cogs would have had a lot of wear and tear. It's not a part expensive job. I mean, from parts point of view, it's not expensive, it's just labor intensive. You're looking at between £3,000 to £4,000 for a thorough manual gearbox rebuild. And overall, I've found that the Porsche 911, the 996s or the 997, they, as a matter of fact, sell much better with a Tiptronic gearbox than as opposed to a manual, because on a manual gearbox you tend to get some Lewis Hamiltons because they think they're going to be racing it around a F1 track. Now, in terms of the performance, what is it you get on this? This is the Gen 2 996, so you've got the 3.6 litre engine. This has the Tiptronic S gearbox, so not the Tiptronic. The 3.6 litre indirect variable intake engine gives you 316 brake horsepower. And from a top speed point of view, this does 174 miles per hour, which is absolutely rapid. And the 0 to 62 miles per hour is possible in 5.7 seconds. You know, if you're looking at it in kilometers per hour, the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is possible in 5.7 seconds. And now you're thinking about the MPG, combined MPG, you're looking at 25, and the sort of motorway, you're looking at up to 35 miles per gallon. Lastly, this 996 is currently available for sale here with us at Invictus. It's undergone the bore scope inspection and the over rev report. Overall, this is in pretty good condition. It drives extremely well, handles superbly well. And previous owners wise, it was previously owned by a 74-year-old lady that traded it in against a convertible Porsche 911 Carrera 991, and that lady has had it wax sealed from underneath to protect it from any future rust corrosion. And overall, you know, over the past year, she's driven it about 2,000 miles, and mostly has done journeys from Pontypridd to the coast, and she's taken good care of it. So if you are looking for a well looked after 996, we have one here at the moment. As a matter of fact, we have a few, and this is one of, I think, one other. So I hope you've enjoyed the review with us. Please don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and press that bell icon, you know, to stay notified with us. and we're now monetized through YouTube, so whatever money we raise through the viewerships or the likes button, etc., all gets donated to charity. So thank you very much. And in a couple of minutes I'm going to be doing another review on a 997. It's called the Generation 1.5, meaning that the cars that were produced between sort of late 2006 to 2008 were called the Generation 1.5. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So thank you, keep safe, keep well, and I hope, you know, a lot of people here in the UK have survived through Storm Eunice. Bye bye.